Welcome to beautiful Oak Street Beach, just a few steps away from Michigan Avenue, hosting the 2022 Chicago Open. It's the Gold Series, and wow, is it a beautiful day here in Chicago, and the fans coming out. This is a definite player favorite, and we're in the men's division here on Stadium Court now. This is gonna be a dogfight, no question about it. Dane Blanton alongside Olympic gold medalist Rich Lamborn, and this is going to be exciting. The loser of this match goes home. The winner advances on. This is a team that you know well, the team that you coach. The Taylors actually took down Phil and Casey, but Phil and Casey won in New Orleans early on. They're dangerous.
They're very dangerous anytime Phil's on the court, anytime someone with the experience of a Casey Patterson. They just come together and they make things happen. We quite frankly escaped with a win yesterday.
Nice. Staying in the winner's bracket. We call this Survival Saturday, and we are getting ready for the introduction of the players. Let's go down to the sand to our very own Mark Sherman.
Woo! I'm like out of breath all of a sudden. It is not easy to jump out of the sand. They just made me jump a couple times. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a big match. The 5 seed, the 7 seed, loser gets 9th. This is not a match I expected to see right now, but it's happening. One of these teams goes home. One of these teams moves on. Chicago. You excited about this matchup right now? Oh my goodness, yes, so am I. Let's meet the boys, shall we? First up, this young man out of Rancho Palos Verdes, California, a fantastic player on the hard court and even better on the beach. I'm just gonna take a seat. You guys got a long way to go in your career, don't you? You're playing a couple veterans. You'd like to just crush them, just end their year, wouldn't you? Yes, especially this guy. Let me hear it for Andy Benesh. And his partner out of Santa Barbara, California, and UC Santa Barbara. Let me hear it for Mr. Miles Evans. And their opponents, this guy, with the 4-man McKibben shirt on. I love it. So good. I need one. He's good at 6-man volleyball. Back in the day, he's really good at 2-man volleyball. An absolute beast at 4-man volleyball. Ladies and gentlemen, he also tears up the dance floor. Let me hear it for one of your favorites, Mr. Casey Patterson. And his partner with a super easy serve, obviously. We're just taking care of that all day, it's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy, the things he does on the court, nobody else in the world can do, and he's done it for such a long time. This guy coming from... Let me hear it for Phil the Beast Dalhausser.
Players shake hands at the net, and they will go to their respective sides. On the right side, Phil Dalhausser with no hair, and then you got Casey Patterson with all the style in the world with the Suave Hawk. And then on the left side, the number 7 seed, Benesh and Evans. This one could get very interesting. This is one of those matchups you expect in the winner's bracket, not in the contenders bracket, but it is fierce.
Yeah, 5 and 7 seeds going at it for a loser takes 9th, which is a little bit surprising, but you know, such is the nature of a 16-team draw. You're going to have tough matches early, and if you don't come through them, you're going to have tough matches the rest of the way.
Whole strategy, stay in the winner's bracket. It's double elimination format until we get to the crossover or the semifinals, and then it's game on. Miles Evans ripping it cross court to Casey Patterson, and Patterson letting that ball fall. I think that's going to be a big component of this one, Rich. Can Casey Patterson deal with Andy Benesh at the net?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see which kind of strategy he goes with, so to speak, because Casey's some of the best vision I'd say, in the history of the game. Sees the court so well, has all the shots. And so how does he navigate the big block of Andy Benesh?
What an athletic play by Miles Evans, and then he follows that one out of bounds. How about the hustle there? Going one direction, able to dig in the other.
Yeah, that's the pliability of, you know, relative youth, I would say. I don't think my spine would do that, Dane. I don't know about you.
He got a few adjustments on that move for sure. There's Evans again, targeting Casey Patterson, just out of bounds. Now back to serve the 42-year-old Phil Dalhausser, 103 tournament victories to his name, and looking just as good as ever. Phil being Phil.
I feel like Phil's even more shredded this year than I've ever seen him, and I don't know if it's, you know, coaching agrees with him that much. He's got his club down in Orlando, Florida, of course. He looks good.
Looking lean, looking strong. He can do it all. And here comes a 27-year-old Andy Benesh out of the middle of the court. Remember, Benesh and Dalhausser played in Austin, winning the championship earlier this year, and now on opposite sides of the net. That was Andy Benesh's first victory, and as I just mentioned, Phil, 103 victories.
Yeah.
And the gold medal, of course. We would need another show to talk about all of his accolades.
Yeah, 2 of those coming this year. The one with Andy, of course, and then the one with Casey in New Orleans the following week, right? So Phil playing with his current girlfriend in front of his old girlfriend.
And that's how it can feel out here. It's like relationships. Your partner, people get dumped, people get revenge. All sorts of things take place, and it can be sensitive when you play with someone for a long time, and then you might be dumped in the 11th hour right before a deadline.
Yeah.
It can get dicey.
Luckily, no animosity in this particular case, as Andy was already slated to play his ball with Nick Lucena, who just recently retired, and I'm sad to see him go. Of course, one of my favorite guys on earth and one of my favorite players out here, Nick Lucena.
And he kind of did an official retirement in Atlanta, right? And
yeah.
We haven't seen him since.
Well, I think the season has started. He's the assistant coach to his wife, Brooke Niles, at Florida State. Yeah. They square off against you and the Trojans quite frequently, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a full-time gig, so he wasn't able to split time out here, unfortunately, for volleyball fans.
Yeah, fantastic program out there at Florida State. But you know what I mean. A lot of players say they retire, and then 2 weeks later you see them playing again.
Yeah, that's right. It's hard to let go if you still got it in you.
That was impressive right there. Casey Patterson not even flinching in the impact zone and digging that ball almost perfectly.
I love the juxtaposition of the personalities, too. Casey's so animated and demonstrative, and Phil is kind of the direct opposite. So you just get Casey yelling and screaming and clapping, and Phil putting his head down and going back to serve again.
Shot out of bounds right now, and some momentum building on the side of Dalhausser and Patterson.
A great layout slap over the net by Casey. Just gives his team another opportunity, and sometimes that's all you need. Follows that one wide.
Now, before last week, we did not have a team repeat on the men's side. We do now with Tri and Trevor, but it was just Phil, who basically was sat alone with 2 victories, one with his current partner, Casey Patterson, which happened in New Orleans, and his other partner on the other side of the net, as we mentioned, Andy Benesh. And Phil, you know, proving that first event with Benesh, a lot of people were like, hey, this may be a little gimmicky, you know, like two big guys playing together. What were your thoughts? Because once they got on the court, it was dangerous for everybody else.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both great blockers, and blockers of that caliber can minimize what you have to do in the backcourt behind it, right? So really, they found a way to maximize their strengths in that partnership. They both serve extremely well, so that was a big part of their game also. And then we've talked a lot about the sort of fun factor for Phil, right? The loose, lower, I don't know if it's lower expectations, but it's kind of like, hey, I don't know what to expect, so I'm just going to be out there and I'm going to have fun, see what happens. And when he's in that mode, is, in my opinion, the best to ever do it. It's dangerous for everyone else, no matter who's alongside him.
It's almost like when he gets challenged or when he's thrown something totally new, that's what piques his interest.
Right.
We take time switch at 7-7.
7-all, Benesh and Evans playing at a high level right here. You want to just stick with it, but I think it's going to come down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, the net play. Can Benesh get the blocks, or can Phil? Who can control that space?
Yeah, I would agree, and I also think it's going to be who can sustain their level the longest, right? You like the veteran aspect that Phil and Casey have on their side. Certainly my guys got a front row seat to that yesterday. We had a pretty good lead, and they just veteraned their way back into it, right? Never got rattled, just kept chipping away, and all of a sudden we're in a dogfight in both the second and the third sets. So I expect a very similar effort from them here, and so it's going to take quite an effort from Miles and Andy as we see what Phil's capable of from the end line. Seen a lot of that over the years.
Great extension by Phil right there, ripping it right down the middle. He loves to serve out of the middle of the court. His three favorite spots, number one, right down the middle, and the other two are either sideline. That time he goes to the sideline, doesn't fool Benesh, and Benesh comes in and rips the ball. Andy Benesh played his college ball at USC, middle blocker, and he's transitioned really well. A lot of times you see outside hitters transitioning more to the beach. Benesh, a middle blocker, he's done it well.
Yeah, he really has, and that play right there is something I've seen him do so many times. It's really quite impressive. You know, the serve-receive aspect is such a difficult thing. If you are a middle blocker, you don't have a ton of reps under your belt from the indoor side, but he passes, particularly that sideline ball, so well for a big guy. It makes it hard to get clean aces on him, and of course then he gets up and he's big and physical and can put those balls away.
Comes Casey Patterson, ripping it down the middle. Andy takes it, and then a shoot over, trying to be a little tricky as Miles Evans, and he pays for it right there. It didn't seem, usually when you go over the net with a set, you need to face the shoulders. Did he face, is the question. If he did, it was a very last-minute turn. You're not allowed to go over with a set, a side set.
Yeah, you can't change direction of the ball. But Phil's so good at those little plays, however we want to call them, those kind of beach type plays, little touches. None better, because he can go knuckle with both hands. You know what I mean? Just the awareness, the length at 6'9". Hard to put those types of plays down against Phil.
Smart play by Evans, but not fooling Patterson. And look at that up by Evans again as the rally continues. Not yet. Looked like Phil tried to go over the net instead of popping straight up.
Yeah, I think he got caught just momentarily off guard that caught the bottom of the tape. It looked like that thing was going to shoot right under the net, caught some tape, and gave Phil an unexpected extra moment to play there.
Wow. Phil going for it everywhere. And let's check this out. This is no question the Sky Vodka rally of the day. Look at the deep jumbo shot. Doesn't fool Patterson. And then look at that scoop. I thought that was in the sand.
Yeah. Great get from Evans. Beautiful overhand dig there from Andy.
And in the end, Phil couldn't keep it up and keep it in play, but that's our Sky Vodka rally of the day. And Miles Evans was everywhere. That one ball, I mean, I don't know how he kept that thing up in the air. It was incredible.
Yeah, you just need a centimeter or so above the sand, right?
Yeah, buddy. How old are you? Birthday boy, how old?
There's that old expression I'm sure we both use a lot as coaches. You never know unless you go. Right, and Miles Evans showing us plenty of go on that play.
You just never know when that play is going to turn the tables. And this one has been a battle. I expect it to go down to the wire each of these sets, and I'm sure we'll get some bonus volleyball as well.
And we're seeing a fair amount of glisten on the players out there for the windy city. We haven't had a whole lot of wind out here today, have we, Dane?
No, it's been very still. Yesterday we had a nice breeze most of the day. Here and there we get a little bit pickup, but by the indicator when we look at those flags up there and they're not moving too much, you know, it's still, it's sticky, it's humid, and it's hot, and it's 11 all here on Stadium Court. Here comes Patterson from the right. Miles keeps it in play. That time, Miles gets his foot on that one. Miles is quick.
He's quick. Yeah, one of the things he does particularly well that I like a lot is he's got his paddles, I call them out, right? His hands are spread open wide. He's get kind of like maximum surface area, and he's pointing it skyward, right? So anything hits any part of his body, it's coming up.
Rosie used to play defense like that. Sean Rosenthal, one of the legends of the game. Oh, that cut shot, uncharacteristic, unforced error by Miles. He'd love to have that one back.
And that's what Phil can do to you, right? Just make you alter your shots ever so slightly. A little bit of that intimidation factor.
Big Phil out of the middle, serving Miles. Miles, another error right there. And not the thing for Miles. He'd love to get that one back. You know, Andy and Miles actually have a victory this year on the tour circuit of the AVP. That's taking place in Denver. But right now, going to have to turn some things around.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about it, right? Like execution is going to be a thing, right? Because both of those swings by Miles were the correct choice, right? He had the wide open cut shot. He had the wide open angle swing. Just barely missed the execution of them, and now they're in a 3-point hole. So I don't know, if you're looking for silver linings, it's good to be making the right decisions, but now you got to execute on those decisions.
Let's take a look at Phil Dalhausser. His resume, he is beach volleyball royalty, no question about it. An Olympic gold medal in 2008 and a 4-time Olympian, 4-time most valuable player on tour, on the AVP tour, 4 times on the FIVB tour. This guy has just done it all. 61 AVP victories and 38 FIVB victories, and he's still going strong. It's so great to see how he's, you know, he's been an ambassador for the sport and carried the torch for a long time as the hopes for the United States, and hopefully can pass down some of those, some of that knowledge, some of those skills to young guys like Andy Benesh, and they can carry it into the future.
Yeah, and just one of the all-time great guys out here as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you won't meet a nicer guy than Phil, which you wouldn't necessarily expect from such a decorated athlete. I don't know why we think that those two things don't often go hand in hand, but I mean, he's just a fantastic guy. One of the fascinating things about that list of accomplishments there is worldwide 13 times combined best offensive player while rarely getting served. That's how good his offensive game is, that he was crowned the best offensive player on 13 different occasions, domestically and internationally, while seeing very few serves.
Using the block, 2-4.
Phil gets his hand on that one. It looked like Patterson was shifting into the right spot. That happens every once in a while. As we look at the comparison between Benesh and Evans, just 1/10 of an inch, the difference. Anytime you see someone at the 25, 30 plus range on the sand, that's a huge vertical leap.
Yeah, that's big. Andy reaching those heights at 6'9". That means when he's battling Phil, things are happening way above the top of the table.
The penthouse level up there. I don't know if my key card gets me there.
Yeah, mine doesn't.
Andy Benesh, Miles Evans, 13, serving Dalhausser and Patterson, who have 15. Miles all over this one by Patterson. Can he convert? Yes. Down the line, up and over Phil Dalhausser.
Yeah, and there's a look at that foot speed you were talking about from Evans, right? Doing a nice job waiting. We talked about Casey Patterson's vision. If you give away your defensive positioning too early, he'll see you and find the open court. But Miles really relying on his speed to run down shots.
And Phil, that one off the tape. Miles doesn't get that one. That looked like it maybe threw the defense off right there, because we know how good the ball control of Evans is. Dalhausser, Patterson, a little lower numbers. 22-1 is solid. Patterson 20.2. Perfect pass by Evans. And there's Patterson again. Benesh is going to have an opportunity, and he hits that way out of bounds. And that is something you're not going to see in the stat book, but Phil, kind of intimidating.
Intimidating, yeah. And a great play by Casey in the backcourt to keep that alive and really maintain the advantage, as the great Mike Dodd calls it. You know, not a set from Phil in transition that he could have killed, but he put a tough shot on Andy and Miles, kind of put them in a tough spot, and Andy made the mistake.
Benesh tries to go over on the second contact, but he lets the ball drop just a little bit.
Yeah, again, the right choice. It just comes down to execution. Right, and this is what we saw just a few points earlier. Miles and Andy certainly capable of and actually executing on making good defensive plays, getting themselves level, but then just a mistake here and there. And once again, Phil and Casey have a 4-point lead.
Here's the four-time Olympian, Phil Dalhausser. Going over to the youngster, Andy Benesh. And Benesh goes up the ladder and over Phil, just barely. And it's 18-15.
Yeah, that's one we talked about. Even at 6'9", you got to go up high to get that over Phil.
Oh, and Casey Patterson thinks it's Phil's ball, and they leave it. It ends up an ace right down the middle, and so some life here for Benesh and Evans. Oh, that is close right there. I think that ball is going to be ruled in.
There's certainly some sand splash on the line, but now it comes down to did it splash backwards onto the line? A very quick glance at it from our upper.
From about 7 feet away.
Must have better eyesight than I do.
And that is the point to Andy and Miles. It's out of there. It's 17-18.
That was interesting.
That was interesting.
I mean, in that ball mark, we don't have instant replay here, but wow, was that close.
I feel like you could make arguments both ways, right? Because the full circle of the ball mark is outside the line, but from a physics standpoint, it has to kind of come down to get to that point, right? So you have to figure it clipped that line on its way by. Ruled out of bounds, though, in this case.
Oh, getting out of jail right there. Patterson looked like there was no light, and somehow a little deep shot down the middle.
Yeah, and that's wily veteran stuff right there. It looked like it was going to be a joust, so he goes in with the heel of the hand exposed in case he doesn't get the contact. It's not going to be a throw on him, and he just places that perfectly up the middle.
Definitely a veteran move. Oh, underneath the armpit of Phil. Phil thought he was going to have a nice swat block right there.
Yeah, and if there is a downside to getting up so high over the net, it's that sometimes you can kind of expose the underneath side, so to speak, of your arms. And Miles finds it there.
That was impressive. Went off the right hand, then his left hand, and pressing right to the middle of the court. And some timely points by Benesh and Evans have gotten them right back into this thing.
Yeah, the ace up the middle started it off. They were able to get the hitting error from Casey Patterson, and now the block has them level at 19.
Out on court number 2, Buttinger and Field winning the first set over Bruner and Shaw 21-14 and leading in set number 2 5-1. So the #1 seed in the tournament up against the ropes on the outside. Here's a good look at quarterfinals on Stadium Court. Next up, the women. Hughes, Kalinsky, Chang, and Flint. And the men take over at 1:30. Brewster Friend versus the Taylors. And at 2:35, you'll have Team LSU, Cloth and Nuss versus Cannon and Sponsel, the #2 seed. And then finally at 3:40, Lotman and Partain taking on Triborn and Trevor Crabb, the last week's champs in Manhattan Beach. They would love to win another Gold Series event. 3 Gold Series events. First was Atlanta, then was Manhattan, and this is the final one here in Chicago. Your best 2 out of 3 finishes qualify you for those Phoenix Championships that are happening September 23rd and 24th. And only 4 teams get in on points, and then another 2 on wild card.
KC with the side out. It's set point for Dalhausser and Patterson.
That's a great quick snap down to the sand from Casey. If he rolls that at all, Miles is on it, but the trajectory wins the point for him. Yeah, just a little footnote on that match out on court, too. The good news for Brunner and Schalk is that they've clinched a place in Phoenix already.
Nice.
So even if that doesn't go their way out there, they're in.
Here's set point. Miles is going to challenge, and he cut shots it right over the top. But yeah, you bring up a good point. They already a lock is what you're saying in that top 4.
Correct. Not necessarily the way you want to go into the championships in a 9th place finish, but they've put in some good work thus far.
Big hit by Evans on the right side, and Benesh and Evans take the lead, and now they will be looking at set point.
Now, what a turn of events here in set number 1, Dane. Just a moment ago, it was 18-14 Dalhausser Patterson.
Tight set. Wow, what a play. Both sides of the net, and then Phil lets the ball drop and hits it into the net. And just like that, Benesh and Evans win set number 1.
Wow.
That was a crazy rally right there. A lot of quick reaction time. And then looked like maybe the best possibility to get a hit at the end for Phil. And the ball ends up dropping too low. Wow. What a way to end set number 1. And that last rally, the Wilson play of the day. You see the quick reaction right there. The pokey by Phil. And then comes in and just tries to hit it a little bit too sharp. That is the Wilson play of the day.
Sure, why not? Hey, what's your name? Chris. Here's, yes, Curtis is on. Actually, Chris on the ground. Big helmet up too. Curtis and Cassie, here we go. So here's the deal. When I say go, you
And there's a throwback right there in the box with Miles, and Andy is tight scrambling.
So Benesh and Evans, 22-20. Dalhausser, Patterson gonna think it over, try to recover. Welcome back to Chicago. It's the AVP Gold Series 2022, and there are the standings. Bruner and Schalk, although up against the ropes on the outer court right now, they've already clinched a top 4 spot for the championships that will take place in September in Phoenix. Budinger Field, the team that is putting them on the ropes right now, they are on the outside looking in, so they have a lot to gain if they can be victorious.
Yeah, certainly that's the case for them, and it's wild that our matchup here, both teams are perfectly level on 3,635 points, so the implications even greater for this match.
Set 1 was a big surprise. Benesh and Evans trailed 14-18, then turned this thing around really quickly. Rich, how did they do it?
Well, it started with an ace. They got an error. They made some great defensive plays, just keeping the ball alive and forcing second and third efforts on the side of Dalhausser Patterson. And we talked about the mistakes from their side kind of leading to the deficits they found themselves in. They cleaned those unforced errors up and were able to steal that victory in set number 1.
Yeah, you look at the stats and they're about even because Phil and Casey were kind of ahead, but then the way that thing finished was all Benesh, all Miles, and can they continue it in set number 2? That's the big question.
Yeah, we talk a lot about execution being kind of the deciding factor, and that's what it was in set 1 too. When Miles and Andy weren't executing that great, they found themselves in holes, and when Casey and Phil weren't executing great, they found themselves giving away those leads and ended up giving away that first set as well.
So it was bonus volleyball, 22-20 in the first set. Now Patterson and Big Phil try to get back on track. Miles has really had the upper hand, really good offensively. Despite that little stint where he hit a couple of balls out of bounds, he's been solid.
Yeah, even at the time we talked about those being the proper decisions. He's just cleaned up the execution, right?
Nice jump float serve by Miles. Beautiful touch, and there's the set. And some pretty volleyball right there. You got to have confidence to set that ball.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday from Kyle Friend going touch off his own block right into a handset to his partner Timmy Brewster, and that is also an unusual play and demonstration of extreme confidence in one's hand setting ability from Miles Evans in the backcourt.
Casey Patterson on the right. Wow. Gotta love it when Casey Patterson starts talking to himself. 2016 Olympian, and looked like he was turning back the clock there on that hit.
Found a nice divot, a little explosion, a little exclamation point from DJ Rouchet with the sound effects. I love all the little sort of idiosyncrasies of players in general, but somebody like Casey who's so demonstrative lets you see it all. Set one didn't work out perfectly. I wasn't wearing a hat, so now set two, I'm gonna break out a hat, see if we can change our mojo a little bit.
Is he superstitious like that?
I think everybody is to a certain extent, right?
You gotta switch it up if it's not working, right? Patterson was in the right spot until that ball clipped the top of the net, so fortunate kill from Miles. Benesh with a jump float. Quick to get to the net, but Patterson. Don't you think Casey Patterson much better when he's talking to himself? Dalhausser Patterson over 6,500 feet traveled, but when he's you know, the pop and the lock and the break dancing, you don't see it that often, but when he's doing it, I think it's like a 20% booster.
Yeah, if the dialogue is positive, I certainly agree with you. Right? Sometimes if things aren't going your way and you get into that self-talk that's a little I don't know, destructive sounds excessive, but less than uplifting maybe. It can be not a great thing. Usually his dialogue is nothing but positive, and I agree with you. When he's got it all on full display is when he's at his best.
Yeah, it always seems positive with him, even if he's kind of reprimanding himself. It's kind of in a funny way.
Right, right.
So what are you doing? And that's Big Phil right there, taking all of the angle against his former partner, Andy Benesh.
Great look at that on the replay there. Phil on his way up as he blocked that, which is exactly what you want to be out on the sand.
Set is off the net, and it's going to be costly right there. You see, Phil saw the positioning of that set, waited, delayed, and then he swatted it.
Casey giving a little pantomime of that, climbing the ladder and swatting that back. Phil, great read up at the net. Like you said, he saw that set was a little bit back and Andy was going to have to shoot it, so he waited, went up and got it.
It's a good look at the 42-year-old Casey Patterson coming in from the corner, going cross court to Benesh. Nice deep corner. Andy Benesh is one of those players that really hits those deep corners a lot. And I think that's a huge benefit because defensively it's so hard to defend a guy that big, not trying to bang it straight down, but hitting those high corners.
Yeah, when you see how high he is up there, you expect a little more trajectory. And when he's finding those deep parts of the court, it can kind of throw you off defensively.
And there's that offense you were talking about, Rich, earlier from Phil Dalhausser. That's why he's so feared, and that's why he doesn't get a lot of serves.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do with that? The thing's on the 8-foot line cross court. If you're not standing there, you are not digging that ball.
7-4. Dalhausser and Patterson with the lead in the second set. They lost the first set. Beautiful serve and some gas from the crowd with that set.
Yeah, I think people just expect in that situation, you know, most people would double that ball, but Miles really has some great hands, really fast, really high release. And that was a great set. And again, a nice display of his confidence in that ability that he's got.
Casey Patterson pumped up with his partner, getting some pretty nice kills.
Yeah, Phil thumps one and not a peep, and you hear Casey in the background screaming and yelling.
Let's take the switch at 6-8.
Like Phil and Casey doubling up there on the angle, leaving the line vulnerable.
Chicago, who are we rooting for? Who's rooting for Benesh and Evans?
8-6 side switch. Always switching on increments of 7, so no one gets the advantage of sun or wind. And I don't think we see good side, bad side much right now.
No, not too much. It looks like it's starting to come in a little bit off the water towards the side of Phil and Casey right now. So maybe if there is a better side, that's the better of the two. But it's not something that's going to make too much effect on this game.
That ball hit out of bounds by Casey Patterson, and Benesh and Evans hanging in there. And if you're Phil and Casey, you got to be thinking, we got to get a lead here. We don't want this thing to come down to 18, 19 all.
What a set from Benesh. I mean, just a phenomenal dig from Miles. Great set, but Phil closing the door. Good disciplined handwork over the net.
So many blockers try to be so sophisticated, show one way, go the other. That time Phil started in one spot and finished in the same spot. Didn't make any moves, and it's a game of chess.
Yeah, especially in transition, I think you have to kind of get a little more basic. Great turn down the line, Andy Benesh.
Andy Benesh, quite the player at USC. Played some professionally after college in Switzerland. And I think he's found a home on the beach. High expectations and a ton of potential for this guy. There he is, but he follows through into the net. An easy play for Benesh. He'd love to have that one back.
Yeah, that's a big break for Casey and Phil there. Casey trying to throw that option ball up there. Kind of overcooked it a little bit. Got bailed out by Andy.
Perfect soft block. That was an interesting play by Phil. Instead of jousting with one hand, he kind of pushed with two hands, and the referee didn't like it. He kind of set himself on it before. It was creative.
Yeah, he was expecting, obviously, the simultaneous contact, but the ball was just a little bit too far on his side, so it looks kind of funny in slow motion there, but you could see the wheels turning.
$11 serving 9. Dalhausser and Patterson looking to push this to a third set. They need to win this second set after losing set 1 22-20. And that'll be the technical timeout right there. And it's been quite a year already with a lot of different partnerships. And Phil and Casey won an event back in New Orleans, and that was something special. We got to catch up with Casey Patterson about his thoughts on playing with Phil.
The most exciting part is just playing with him in general. I used to be a full-time blocker when I first started, and then first tournament I won in 2009, I was full-time blocking, and so I played him one time and I was like, I'm not gonna be able to go to a much higher level if I stay here. So I was like, I gotta play defense, and maybe one day I'll get the chance to play with him. So I'm super excited. I was probably more nervous than the guys playing that we played today, because I was like, I'm finally getting to play with Phil. So it's been a fun time so far, getting that first match out of the way, and you know, he's, in my opinion, the greatest player ever in the game. So I mean, he proved it in Austin. Like, he doesn't even train, can show up and split block, play defense, transition, and he's just smooth as ever. So I'm just happy to be here and stoked to learn from him in this, you know, this event today.
Casey Patterson definitely appreciating every time he gets on that court with Big Phil. I remember Casey's first win in 2009 in Coney Island with Ty Loomis, and playing full-time at the net, and he's come such a long way, Casey Patterson. His game, not only as a blocker, moving to a defender, but Phil brings out the best in everyone he plays with.
Yeah, he really does. It's fun to hear Casey talk about the joy of this experience playing alongside. I don't know, I share Casey's opinion that Phil's the best to ever do it. Deference to all the other legends of our sport. I just think he's the most complete.
Yeah, you could just feel that sense of respect that Casey has for Phil, because he can do big things like that right there. He blocks that right off of Miles Evans' face. The glasses come off. Looks like he's okay, though. It's funny, we asked Phil about Casey Patterson, and his response only took 10 seconds. Casey's took a good minute, but isn't that the personalities right there?
Right. Well, how about that serve? Just fell right off the table.
In those 10 seconds, though, it was very complimentary of Casey Patterson. It's fun to see partners get out there that have a ton of respect for each other.
Yeah, Casey's one of the great partners, I think, of all time. You know, just so uplifting, everything's so positive, like you said.
Another huge block at the net. So Phil starting to impose his will at the net, but he knows he's in a bit of a hole, though, after that first set loss. To make your Gold Series Chicago Open predictions on Valley Play's AVP Predictor game and take your shot to win 6 VIP tickets to the championships in Phoenix. Just scan the QR code or go to valleyplay.com/AVP to make your winning predictions. If you predict correctly, you win a free VIP package to the championships. Get your picks in today, right now. Those championships are September 23rd and 24th, taking place in Phoenix, and wow, is that going to be a lot of fun. But you only get to punch your ticket there if you're one of the top 4 teams when you look at 2 of your best 3 finishes on the Gold Series. The first one was in Atlanta, the second was in Manhattan Beach, and we are here in Chicago for the 3rd and final Gold Series event, and teams kind of jockeying for position. It's an exclusive event in Phoenix, only 6 total teams, 4 on points, 2 by a wild card. There's Dalhausser, 5 blocks already in this one, and we got a lot more volleyball to play.
Yeah, and in case you missed our graphic earlier, these teams deadlocked on points in the race to Phoenix, so this match critical for both. And that is Casey Patterson at his finest right there, scooping, taking that tight set and just wrapping it over the top of any block in the world to open court.
And he's gotten a little more talkative as this one has gone on, a little more interaction with the fans as well, and you can see it reflecting his game. Teed it up just for Andy Benesh. Not an easy play, an overpass like that, but Benesh snaps it down. And this is kind of about the situation we had in that first set. It was about a 4-point deficit. And then Benesh and Evans found a different gear.
It is interesting to me how difficult the overpass is on the sand versus indoors, right? It's just something you don't see as much, or you're the blocker, you're running up to the net while the ball's coming over. There are just these little intricacies that make it so difficult.
Yeah, it is. If you don't time it right, you look really goofy. Yeah. Hit the ball into the stands or into the bottom of the net. That ball out of bounds. 12-16. Take a side switch here, and Dalhausser, Patterson in control as of right now, although they're looking to tie things up and push it to a third set.
See those little transponders on the back of everyone's shorts giving us those awesome stats. I'd love to see a stat on how much water weight Andy Benesh loses in any given match. I mean, that kid can sweat.
Yeah, it's so important having the right formula, right, to stay hydrated. The electrolytes. I know players used to use Pedialyte a lot, and just anything to get the electrolytes in there, because once you start cramping or suffering from any type of dehydration, it is so difficult to recover. Oh, wow. Andy Benesh coming way under the net there. Phil doesn't even get phased.
Yeah, that's a no harm, no foul.
You know, normally any player would have been like, ref, what is going on?
Right.
What, you know, this guy almost took me out. Not a word out of
Not
Phil.
a word, yeah. Just kind of alluding to what a good guy Phil is, like we talked about earlier.
High hit by Patterson. Ricochets off the block and out of bounds. And it's 18-13.
Casey's hair is just flowing right now. There's a little bit of online groundswell, people trying to get him to do the Jedi braid with that thing. Be interesting to see if they come through this match, if he looks to appease that group of people. So this is the exact score that we saw in the first set. Dalhausser Patterson up 18-14. This is where Andy and Miles really were able to turn it.
Yeah, this is exactly the score, right?
Yeah.
And so let's see what happens here. Pressure situation for both teams. Both these teams need to make it to Sunday if they're going to have a shot at those Phoenix championships. So a lot of pressure on. And look at the serve by Benesh. What a set by Phil. Positioning absolutely perfect. And then the high hit by Patterson.
Yeah, you can see. I think if Andy would have pulled his hands, that might have hit the big scoreboard up there. Casey really doing the veteran swing, going up high into the block.
Patterson's there. Oh, and what a bounce. Oh, Andy Benesh pressing over with a huge stuff block. I mean, Phil and Casey could not have gotten a better bounce on that first contact and looked like they had the advantage, but Benesh said no.
I love the preparation there by Phil, though, right? He was down low, ready for it, got the good bounce, put up a perfect set.
We're going to switch sides.
Phil coming in high.
Casey and Phil.
And it's now 20-15.
I know I say
point.
this a lot, Dane, but I got that being a little bit of a service mistake. You just stuff-feed Casey Patterson, and then you throw one at Phil in kind of a critical moment. Little game plan elements like that, I think, can pay huge dividends in matches that are close. And it's something that I don't know if enough players think about.
No, I agree. I mean, you have to be smart. and go to the right person. Here's the first set point for Phil and Casey, trying to force a third, and that ball looks like it is out of bounds, and just like that, we're all tied up. One set apiece. (22-20), 21-15, and we have been talking about that blocking up at the net. Who's going to control it? And Phil seems to have had the advantage, but then Andy stuffed that ball straight down. Be interesting how it plays out. The Monster Hydro Monster blocks, that is plural, from Phil Dalhausser all over the court. Didn't matter where the offense was coming from. Phil was putting it in the right spot. It's the Monster Hydro Monster blocks by Phil Dalhausser. Phil, 13 total attacks, 7 kills, 5 blocks, and a couple of aces. And he has had a huge impact, and I love this third set to 15. It's a lot of fun. It's a sprint. Don't have time to get down and kind of come back, and so this is where Phil has another gear.
Phil usually finds a way to impose his will in these third sets, right? The longer you let Phil hang around, the more and more he seems to start to figure out his opponents, and that's typically bad news.
Take a look at the set 2 stats. The efficiency off the charts for Dalhausser, Patterson in comparison to Benesh and Evans. And the blocking, wow, big disparity there.
Yeah, 5 blocks, 3 aces, a couple hundred points in hitting percentage, and fewer errors is almost always going to equal good things on your side of the net.
We talked about a team on the outside looking in, and that was Chase Buttinger and Troy Field. They're trying to make some noise. They have confirmed it. They have eliminated the #1 seed, 21-14, 21-16. Are you surprised by that score, Rich?
Well, a little bit, yeah, because Theo and Cam have been playing some great volleyball ever since the Hermosa final. They've been in every final since. So to see them go out in 9th is surprising, but Troy and Chase, obviously a very, very capable team. So I'm not surprised in that sense, but yeah, you never expect to see the 1 seed go out early on a Saturday.
Yep, that's why we call it Survival Saturday. The stakes are high, and I've been waiting to see the potential of Chase Buttinger and Troy Field, because I don't think they've come close to reaching it yet. Maybe this is their weekend.
They lost their opening round, I believe, to Reed Pretty and Dave Lee, but they seem to have regained some mojo.
Benesh and Evans, the 1-0 lead here. Third set against Phil Dalhausser and Casey Patterson. Dane Blanton alongside Rich Lamborn, bringing you all the action. And a lot of pressure. We mentioned it earlier. Both these teams need to make it to Sunday. Obviously, only one's going to advance if they want to make it to the Phoenix AVP Championships. And Phil, a big game hunter, right? He knows how to get himself into the tournaments, and he's got that other gear. There's a block, but it's just out of bounds.
Good high swing that time from Benesh. If you're going to challenge the block of Phil Dalhausser, you got to make sure you're doing it up high.
Yeah, where that ball's coming back really quick.
Yeah.
Here comes Andy Benesh. Jump float serve. Short serve is nice. Free ball opportunity. Phil's going to take it. Take a step back, get his approach, and detonate that ball. Phil Showing his agility right there. Great footwork.
I want to hit like that once in my life. Listen,
A really nice bit of work, too, by him to take that free ball. Casey been seeing the majority of the serves throughout this match, so Big Phil stepping in and taking the easy one. Not surprisingly, he follows it up with his 6th block.
He got all of that one right there. The timing, right on point, pressing over at the right time. Solid.
Yeah, just great hands, great shape on that block. Blocking is such a tough skill because there's so many moving parts to it, right? You not only have to time it right, you got to be in the right spot. You got to shape your hands properly back into the court.
Yeah, so the great blockers know how to kind of shape that ball back into the court because it's such a quick action. That ball's being hit into your hands at, 60, 70 miles an hour. And if your hands aren't in the right position, oh, wow. Miles Evans and Andy Benesh just watch each other as that ball trickles and falls in between. That's a huge opportunity missed.
Yeah, it's only 1 point on the scoreboard, but you wonder if that is worth a couple points almost psychologically from a momentum standpoint, right?
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow right there. You have to scrap together any points that you can against this team.
Phil lets him off the hook, at least momentarily, however.
Four all here in the 3rd set.
Yeah, there you see, sometimes it takes a bit, but once Phil dials you in, he gets 5 blocks in the 2nd set. He's got 1 here in the 3rd, kind of early stages.
Tough serve, back set for Patterson. And he navigates around the block of Benesh. And make it 5-4.
That was great to see that as he's making his approach around the backside there. Took a good look at the defender, Miles Evans, and gives it a little slap shot down the line.
Oh, Patterson knew it was coming up short, tried to hope and wish it over the net there. Switch on increments of 5 here in the 3rd set. If there was a better side, which it's very minimal, it would be the side that Phil and Casey are on. The wind blowing slightly in their face. That was impressive. It's a medium jumbo order right
it is
there.
interesting. I mean, it has all the trappings of a jumbo, but we don't usually attribute the line jumbo.
Or the middle, right? It's usually cross court.
Yeah, but Casey gets that as a function of some of those, steeper trajectory slap shots that he's hitting.
That's a great play from Miles Evans.
Miles is really going at Phil and rolling the dice. Not something, like you said, you really want to do, because Phil can catch fire and stuff you a few times, and Phil doesn't like being tooled either.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I like about what Miles is doing there, though, is he's going in aggressively. Right? I mean, Phil, obviously a great blocker. We talked about it a lot. But if you get tentative and you try and get cute, that's when his advantage even increases. So Miles doing the right thing, I think, challenging the block high, staying aggressive.
Just inside the right hand of Andy Benesh right there. Patterson knowing when to turn it up, and right there, he really went for that angle. Big hit. what Phil was waiting for. You could see that Casey was down a few feet away. Got to make that play on his own.
Yeah, of course it's easier said than done, but I'd love to see Casey stay on his feet there, maybe be a little more precise with that transition set.
Oh, that's a big one right there. You see what Phil's doing, and it's a sign of a really solid player. When you know that your partner's getting the majority of serves, you start to pinch over, take a little pressure. And I think a few times, like you were talking about, Rich, when they made the error and served the wrong person, I think it was the same serve, but Phil taking a little more court. You almost have to be more directed. If you want to serve one person, you better not put it in the middle.
Right.
Because a smart veteran like Phil's like, hey, if I can get involved, I'm going to do it. And he's done a great job with that.
Yeah, he does do a nice job of kind of poaching that middle ball, trying to alleviate some of the pressure on his partner. We used to talk about that a lot when we'd battle with Phil and Nick, that there was kind of like the middle against regular teams, and then there's the Phil middle, which is just barely off the shoulder of his partner.
Oh, what a drop by Phil. Perfect read. And he converts it as well. The offensive player did not see the drop at all. Ends up in an easy poke play for Big Phil.
Timeout 9-7. Team timeout for Benesh and Evans.
Yeah, and what's so impressive about Phil is that control with his knuckles. You don't see a lot of defenders have the confidence to just throw a one-handed knuckle up on a roll shot like that. And he controls it so well. It's such a part of what he does.
He could set that ball even.
Yeah.
If he wanted to. So fun to watch Big Phil do his thing. There you see set number 3, Dalhausser Patterson hitting 800 right now to Benesh and Evans 444. And it's resulted in a 2-point advantage. But I truly believe as we come down to this one, whoever gets the most blocks from this point on, I think walks away with a victory.
Yeah, Miles and Andy really have the pressure on them, right? They've got that 2-point deficit. It's kind of the latter third of this third and final set. They've got to find a way to steady out on their side and generate some points.
6 blocks for Phil. And a control block as well. And this is getting very interesting here. Third set action. Benesh and Evans won the first 22-20. Dalhausser Patterson won the second 21-15. It's 9-7 Dalhausser and Patterson. Here in the third set. Phil will serve it, run to the net immediately. Position himself, and there is a double contact by Miles Evans. That was a high-risk set, falling back like that.
Very high risk when you're backpedaling. I personally, I didn't think it was that bad. That's a tough juncture to break out the first double call of the match.
It's one of those things, and refs are humans, so they do it a lot. They anticipate you being out of position, so therefore it's going to be a tough set. Whereas if your feet are set, sometimes they'll let it go. But I agree with you.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You kind of subconsciously, when you see Miles backpedaling, in your mind, you're holding him to a higher standard there. And if there's any spin, that's when the whistle comes.
Another tricky drop. And this one, Miles reads perfectly. Can he convert? Yes, with the off-speed changeup right there. Wow.
And that was my good friend and former teammate Riley Salmon used to call that the palm ball. He was go full swing and just stop it right at the moment of contact and drop that down the line. Really nicely done. Casey will be kicking himself a little bit for not staying aggressive in transition.
Patterson clearing something off the court. Slight delay. It's 10-8. Patterson, Dalhausser receiving. Here comes Patterson on the right and quickly gets that to the sand before Evans can get set up and make it 11-8.
And Casey has such good wrap on his shots, but he can get that hand and wrist over the top of the ball and give us some trajectory as well. that's why fans love Casey. He's back there. It's 11-8 here in the decisive third set, and he's back there fist bumping fans in our courtside boxes.
That serve into the bottom of the net. 9-11 switch. It's 4 points away. Loser this one finishes in 9th place. The winner advances to take on Buttinger and Field, who defeated the #1 seed out on court 2, and that being Brunner and Schultz.
Yeah, those are some wild matchups to say in.
Close. Was that in or out? The ball Phil took. It was close.
I think that was going to be in. I think it's a great take from Phil. Just a little bit of a missed contact. Casey almost miraculously brings it right back.
Yeah, another foot and Phil would have got there. Check it out. Look at the velocity on Patterson. Just bombs that. I think you're right. That ball was going to end up inbounds. Phil kind of shanked it a little bit, missed past it, and Casey almost recovered it.
If you've ever tried to pass a sky ball, it's not super easy. And then if you try and do it running backwards over your shoulder, it's even tougher. Even the best in the world can get fooled by that on occasion.
Checking out quarterfinal action that'll happen on Stadium Court. Next up, the women, Hughes and Kalinsky going up against Chang and Flynn. So former partners Hughes and Chang going up against each other there. Then the men come back on Stadium Court. The youngster, Brewster, just 22 years of age, and Friend playing some high level. They'll be up against the Taylors, Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander. Rich, your team. And then at 2:35, the women, Team LSU, Clothen Nuss versus Cannon and Sponsel. Both those teams having victories already this year. And finally, Lotman and Partain, the 20-year-old youngster, will take on Triborn and Trevor Crabb, last week's champs in Manhattan Beach. So a lot of action here on Saturday, Survival Saturday, and just getting started. And we already got a packed house.
Packed house and a tight one here in the third. Benesh and Evans versus Dalhausser Patterson. 10 serve and 11 to stay alive on Survival Saturday. It's never easy, is it, Dave?
No, especially in a 16-team draw. And Andy Benesh, remember, who's going to have more blocks here in the end is going to pull this thing off. That's my prediction. Benesh stuffing that ball down.
Yeah, and a nice adjustment by Andy. Casey's snuck one or two of these underneath him. He goes a little wider with the right arm and gets the stuffy.
High snap, great rotation on the ball by Patterson.
Yeah, kind of that ongoing game of cat and mouse, right? Andy made the adjustment to get the block. Casey makes an adjustment back, chops even more angle off in the cross court. No doubt gave that the patented Casey Patterson never twice call after that.
12-11. Patterson and Dalhausser lead. And that's a miss hit. Underneath the ball a little bit is Andy Benesh.
Yeah, Miles so good at hand setting, as we've talked about throughout this match, but a couple of those sets just getting a little far off the net, I feel like, for Andy Benesh. Throw your big guy up there close to the net. Let him go be physical.
13-11. Phil Dalhausser. Middle of the middle serve. They go back to Benesh. And Phil, he got it. Straight down block. And just like that, it's 14-11. 7 blocks for Phil Dalhausser so far.
And none more timely than this one. Look at this. Another great look at that right hand, just reached it out ever so slightly to take that cross-body attempt away from Miles. From Andy.
Match point. Phil and Casey. 14-11. Phil maybe going for the little trickler there and came up a little short, so make it 14-12. All it takes is one reception, one side out for Phil and Casey, and they'll be advancing.
And Phil a little upset with himself. That's kind of one of the cardinal sins, right, of serving, is missing your serve on match point. The good news is that they generated a little bit of a cushion.
Here we go. Rip, a bomb of a hit by Patterson right at Evans, who can't handle it, and it's 15-12. Phil and Casey turning it up in the end when they needed it.
Yeah, we talk about that pretty frequently, right? Not all points are created equal, and Phil and Casey certainly kind of had a sense for the moment, right? They got their blocks, they got their kills, and their defensive plays when they needed them most late in sets. Win that tight match in 3, and that was a fun one, Dave.
Yeah, a lot of fun here as you look at the statistics. 7 blocks for Phil Dalhausser. They hit an efficiency of .323. So Phil and Casey moving on. Benesh and Evans finish in 9th place. More volleyball coming up here on Stadium Court.